Hello everyone, welcome to the third session of Akbar the Great. In this module, I will discuss about the administration of Akbar during his regime, the revenue policies, the revenue system that he introduced, and the religious policies adopted by him. So let's start. Akbar headed the central administration and exercised absolute power. He was the commander-in-chief of the armed forces and the supreme judge. In administrative, political, military and judicial matter, his decision was considered final. Okay. Next, second under central administration was the Emperor also constituted a council of ministers because he alone himself cannot maintain and manage the entire kingdom. He wanted the help of a group who could suggest and advise him in every matter. So he constituted the council of ministers who helped them in running the administration. The council of ministers consisted of the Wakil or the prime minister, the Qazi or the chief judge, and Mansabdars and other ministers. In the central administration, some important officials were the Wazir, the head of the revenue department, Mir Bakshi, the head of the military department, Khan-e-Saman, who took care of all the needs of the royal household. Akbar himself appointed provincial governors, military commanders, Mansabdars and high officials. He regularly met his officials, ministers and common people. So there were two halls or two sittings which were conducted by the Emperor Akbar, that is Diwan-e-Khas and Diwan-e-Aam. Now Diwan-e-Khas, as the name suggests, that it was the hall of private audience. It was basically where all the administrative matters and all were discussed with the ministers and all nobles, okay, with the high officials and his ministers. And he met all the common people with their problems, with their issues, okay, that is in Diwan-e-Aam, that is the hall of public audience. And he accepted their petitions and solved their problems. Next is provincial administration. Akbar's vast empire was divided into 15 provinces which were called as subas. Each suba was administered by a governor called Subedar, who was appointed by the emperor himself. The Subedar handled both the civil and military matters. Another important official called the Diwan supervised the land revenue collection. He maintained the land records. Each suba was further divided into districts called sarkars. Each sarkar consisted of several parganas. A pargana consisted of many villages. So we can say that the group of villages were known as parganas. So the village was the smallest administrative unit in Akbar's empire. In towns, an official called Kotwal looked after the administration. Next, we come to the very important policy introduced by Akbar, that is Mansabdari system. For proper organization of his army, Akbar introduced the Mansabdari system. The term Mansab means rank, okay, or position given to various military people, soldiers. And on what basis? So let us discuss that. Mansabdar is a person who holds a rank. The following were the main features of the Mansabdari system. First feature was Akbar gave a rank or mansab to each official in his service. The Mansabdars had to maintain horsemen. These were the conditions put in front of them. They had to maintain horsemen and depute them for fighting battles for the emperor. Akbar introduced the system of branding horses and maintaining the descriptive roles of the soldiers. Second feature of this system was the Mansabdar with the lowest rank was required to maintain 10 horsemen, while the one with the highest rank was supposed to maintain 7,000 horsemen. The Mansab above 5,000 were reserved for members of the royal family. So the Mansabdar was divided into 3 ranks: lower rank, higher rank, and the rank which was dedicated to the royal household. Okay, and it varied according to the number of horsemen. The Mansabdar were granted Jagirs. A Mansabdar was entitled to fix a share of the revenue from his Jagir as salary for his services to the emperor. The Mansabdar had no say in the administration of their Jagirs. The Mansab was not hereditary. With the passing away of the Mansabdar, that means with the death of the Mansabdar, his Jagir is reverted to the emperor and who grants it to somebody else. So it becomes the responsibility of the emperor to grant that position to someone else. It is not according to the hereditary. Okay, that means if a Mansab dies, it will pass on to his son. No, it was not like that. Okay, after if suppose he dies or he leaves that post, then in that case his position becomes vacant. Okay, and his Jagi is passed on to the emperor. Again, emperor will allot it to someone else. Next is the revenue system that was introduced by Akbar. Akbar's finance minister Raja Todermal basically followed the land revenue system of the Afghan ruler Sher Shah Suri. He formulated a new land revenue system which was called Todermal Bandobast. The main feature of this Todermal Bandobast was tax was assessed on every landholder of the empire. Those who are having their own land, tax was imposed on their land. It was a radical innovation because earlier the nobility was rarely taxed. The bamboo stick equal to the length of one zarib was used. Zarib was the land measurement unit that time. Okay. Todermal introduced a new system called Dahshala for assessing the land revenue. Under this system, the revenue was fixed on the average yield of land accessed for the past 10 years. So, past 10 years, whatever was the cultivation, so it was accessed, it was the average of the 10 years, accessing of the land was taken. Okay, so under the system, the revenue was fixed on the average yield of the land accessed for past 10 years. 1/3 of the average yield of the emperor was the emperor's share. So, what was the share which went to the emperor? That was 1/3 of the average yield. The land revenue could be paid in cash or in kind. For revenue assessment, the land was divided into 4 categories depending on its fertility. First was Polaj, cultivated every year, Paroti once in 2 years, Chachar once in 3 or 4 years, and Banjar once in 5 or more years. In times of drought, the farmers were given loans. See, so Akbar also thought about his poor farmers. Okay, land revenue was also reduced or totally waived off for distressed farmers. That means whichever year there was failure of rainfall and all, and farmers were not able to pay their revenue. So in those years, they were being totally waived off. Okay, from the emperor's end. Next is trade. Akbar also encouraged trade. During his reign, the Portuguese were allowed to set up trade posts on the west coast. The Indian traders exported spices, indigo and textiles. To facilitate trade, the standard currency in the form of gold, silver and copper coins were introduced. So with this, I come to the end of this module. So in the next module, I'll be only left out with your religious policy. I'll discuss that and then we will complete the chapter. Thank you everyone. Have a nice day ahead.